live radio, local podcasts, the Frederick Podcast Network at listenfrederick.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, it's time to experience the O's on the Original Sports Podcast.
Take it away, Chops.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, Big Chops. All right, look here. We're without the barber this week, but ain't no thing but a chicken wing. Ain't nothing.
Was he at the Miley Cyrus concert or something?
Man, I'm ready, man.
The Miley Cyrus concert?
Where's Barber? Miley Cyrus concert? Taylor Swift or something like that?
Okay, say what you want, but to this day, if Party in the USA comes on, I'm grooving. I'm telling you now. Okay. That is my joint. It's been my joint. That's been my groove for the longest.
You need to keep that to yourself, Chops.
That has been my joint.
That's something you keep under here.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it, man.
They say something like partying with Jay-Z. Yeah, you be keeping that under wraps.
Man. Fellas, that's my joint.
Okay.
But so we had a lot of stuff going on, man.
Yes.
We got you think about it. We had some good college football. You know, our Steelers aren't undefeated anymore. We got my boy Smitty coming on from around the 412, going to drop the knowledge on us. You know, some things but before we get into Smitty, because our time's going to be limited once we get my man on. You know, he's the hardest working guy on the podcast biz, so we can only have him for a little bit. But peep this. Going back to college real quick. What are they? 44-0 Georgia against everybody else, in 1-3 in the last 4 games against Bama. So I ask you fellas, now just ride with me. Because now it's even a different coach. Does Bama just have Georgia's number, or does Georgia just get beat because when they have actual guys with equivalent athletes on the other side, they lose? Think about it, athlete for athlete, Georgia's always the best team on the field.
Yeah.
Except when they play Bama.
I would agree with that.
You know what I mean? I know UGA fans are hating it, but I'm just.
I would say.
Good.
Go ahead, sis.
I was impressed and disappointed at the same time watching that game the first half. You know, impressed by Alabama to stop the number 2 team who slid to number 2 after not even losing. Texas went above them last week in the charts. But I was concerned about Alabama, but Saban left a hell of a legacy. And usually when those guys step in, a new coach comes in, they're trying to make their footprint and put their finger on the program there. But they did not miss a beat. They came out to play that first half. And then I was disappointed because I didn't know if Georgia was even in the same state. They were like, what was going on? And luckily, I fell asleep. But then you guys started texting, woke me up, and I was like, what the hell just happened?
I know.
That was crazy.
But I think about that, fellas, is Alabama, they put foot to ass on everybody else. But Bama, even with a new coach, come on, fellas. Your boy Kirby is solidified in his spot. That's been his program. He's got his recruits, whatever it may be. How do you pronounce his name? Dober, however you pronounce it.
I was about to ask you, who's the coach at Alabama? I still don't know.
Dober. He came from Washington.
Okay.
This is his first year.
Okay.
I understand it was in Alabama. I get that. But, fellas, that was impressive. That, to me, was impressive.
Well, it was. But you think they're going to see each other again?
In the playoffs?
Yeah. Go ahead, Sizzle.
Yeah, I think they'll see each other in the playoffs. And again, it's favored towards Alabama. Their longest winning streak's 7 from 2008 to 21. And they try to throw up some stats there, but Alabama was just dominant. They won more national championships. They won more head-to-head. They won 43, 26, and 4 versus Georgia lifetime. And so they run that SEC right now.
And you're right. I do think they'll meet in the playoffs. I'm hoping it's not till the quarter or semifinals. I'm hoping it's not because I don't want to see him early. I really don't. Because even though I'm not a UGA fan, and I'm not, fellas, I'm just not. And it's their fans that are obnoxious to me. I hate them. Guys that couldn't even spell UGA got a tattoo. We did this. We did. I hate it being down here. However, I give them credit. They're one of the top 3-4 teams in the country.
Yeah, so you can't be mad at the fans. It's like me. I'm a Pitt fan. Always going to be a Pitt fan. Always been since I was young. No matter what they do, I'm going to argue about it.
Sheen, and I get that.
We got a lot of players from Pitt that went on to greatness in the NFL. Greatness, not mediocre. Like,
I got you.
Was good. Herschel Walker was good at Georgia, but he got you in the NFL.
Where's your Steeler tattoo? Where's your Pitt Panther tattoo? Okay, I don't see it. What is that one?
No, I'm just messing with you. I don't have either
exactly. These guys, I'm telling you, down here, UC guys have never been to the stadium, never been on campus, rocking UGA tattoo. They're just obnoxious with it, man. They're just, and you're right, I get it. And it's just, but that's what I wondered. Against everybody else, when they are clearly the better team, they end up finding a way to get it done. But against Bama, athlete for athlete, either they're even Steven or Alabama might have the little advantage. Bama can't seem to get it done. And that's with a new coach first year. You don't think that bot hits the race with the damn boat boosters and whatnot?
Hey, you talk about will we see them again? I think we will, and I hope it is later in the playoffs. But this game was definitely a January, February, whenever they play these games. Now this was an early preview of what it's going to be like. But I tell you what, Milroe, he played out his ass. And Beck was scared. I don't know what happened to him, but Milroe, he showed me a lot. I thought he was the dominant quarterback in the first half and did a little bit in the second, but not, just get them through. But I thought he was the number one quarterback of the game.
I was about to say, is Beck still the number one, you think?
No.
You think he's number two?
According to Mel Kiper Jr., he's number two.
Who the hell is Mel Kiper?
You know what, though? Honestly, okay. So who did they have? Who do they have one? Jax? Okay. Beck. Oh, no. That's what I thought. I thought I could have swore word Beck was one. I thought I heard him as one. But what about old boy from Ole Miss? I thought that was supposed to be, because when I read that Saturday night, that shocked me.
That's another one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, see, this is my whole thing with all of that. When you're supposed to be number one, or you got to win those games. You can't lose to Kentucky. You know what I mean? And then you got to beat Alabama. You got to prove you the best against the best. That's my whole anthem. To be elite, you got to beat elite.
But here's the thing, Sheen. At what point do we say you realize the quarterback doesn't make a tackle? He's never on defense. So when your team, now it depends if he throws a couple INTs, if he misses a couple targets, you go ahead and put it on old boy, the quarterback. But if he's doing his and the defense is still giving up points, giving up whatever have you, how does the quarterback suffer for that? I don't get that. But now I admit, I end up turning it off too early in that game. I started watching some other sports and other stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just think when you're the dog, or you're supposed to be the dog, I need you to show up. That's a whole other story with TJ Watt. When you're a dog, you got to be the dog. That's just how that goes. If you don't want that title, hey, tell people, hey, I'm not that dog. That ain't me. That's just me. That's just me. And dogs want dogs. Dogs want to play against dogs. Dogs don't want to play against, SMU.
Yeah.
I sent Coach Noob that clip. Do you remember that coach? Man, I forget where he was. Somewhere in North Carolina, I think Charlotte or something. He's like, we need some dogs. We don't need these little kitty cats.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need meow, meow. He's like, we don't need, how's my hair look? I need an extra band. I need new laces. We need some dogs. And that's what you're talking about.
Listen, I like 2 or 3 kids to get in trouble. I like those 3. Bring them in here, man. They get in a little trouble on campus. They might be, drag racing. But listen, on Saturday, they ready to play, baby. They ready to play. Now, I don't want them harming no one. I don't want them hurting women or beating up students, but if you're stealing laptops, drinking a little bit, maybe a little bit of extracurricular activity, I like that. I like that in a guy. I need about 3 of those guys on my team. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Maybe did that drag racing down in Georgia by Chops' house and they killed someone.
Well, I don't want to go on that. No, I don't.
Dude, they're ridiculous in Athens. How they're wrecking. Real quick, fellas. We lost a great one, MLB. Since the playoffs are starting, it made me bring up we lost old PD Rose. Real quick, as soon as we can, because I know we got our boy coming on here soon. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? What do you think about his lifetime ban?
Yes,
he should be.
And I was hoping he would get in before this day came. I said it last night. I mean, he screwed up. He lied. He lied, denied, and then confessed. And so did Bill Clinton. But he's in Hall.
But you're right, and I wish Barber was here because baseball is so full of themselves, and they have this. I don't want to say holier than thou, but the unwritten rules. If you smack a home run, don't show up the pitcher. Don't throw up a big old fat tater for me to take it deep. You know what I mean? And seriously, in every sport, if you get used, if you get done dirty, if you get mossed, they're putting you on blast. If you get hit, they're putting you on blast. But now all of a sudden in baseball, if you throw a fat old melon right across the plate and he takes you yard, he's supposed to walk humbly. If you figure if a guy has 300 bats, 400 bats in a year, if he hits 50 home runs, that's a great season. So every home run this guy gets to hit against a major league pitcher, he should get to celebrate. And why I went off on that tangent was because they're saying he bet, that's the ultimate sin, and that's the third rail in sports. And I get that. But they also said the people that investigated him, he never bet against his own team. So he was actually living up to his name, Charlie Hustle. I'm betting us to win. I'm betting us to win. I'm betting us to win.
Yeah, there was whole.
Yes. And when you have an entire era who's in there for roids, how do you really? That's a true advantage. Betting is not an advantage.
Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, they just bet who's going to get the Rookie of the Year.
Yes.
They're on FanDuel. These guys, come on, don't be stupid about it. They're betting. And now if they're throwing the game like the basketball dude,
From Toronto. They
got him. But that's one thing. And I understand it's like in the code of conduct and so on and so forth. But it's been done. He's the all-time hit leader, 4,256 hits.
Yeah, that don't take away from that.
25 years he played. 25 years.
Wow.
I mean, that's impressive. He's won World Series. He epitomized the sport of that time, and they nicknamed him properly, Charlie Hustle. And it's just a different grind back then.
It was. I'll give him that.
Yes, I would love to see him in the Hall. Unfortunately, he won't. So,
yeah, I think he goes in. I think he'll go in soon.
You think?
Yeah, I've heard rumblings. Listen, I've been around some folks this summer, man, and I heard some rumblings, man. But like I told y'all, I'm going up to the Josh Gibson Gala October 18th in Pittsburgh. I'm going to see what those guys think, some of those baseball guys. I'm going to question them, see what they got to say. I know some of the MLB guys will be there, the guys who played in MLB and the guys who still play in MLB. I'm sure some Pirates will be floating around, but yeah, I'll ask them. We also lost to Kimbe Mutombo.
Man, did you guys see? I bet you it's been a year or two now, if not longer. So please don't correct me on a day or hold me to the date. John Sally because he's a 7-footer. He had put the stat line up because he knew his interview that once if you're 7 foot, you have like a 60% chance to live past the age of 55. I think he said.
Oh wow! Oh,
it's like damn, and it was how far your like with the height for something. I was like, man. Now I'm thinking about some of these cats that he was dealing with how they're no longer with us, man. So again, is he backstage? Is my man Smitty backstage?
Yes,
all right. Steeler fans. This is my guy Smitty. He's from around the 412. He other than Tomlin, not too many other cats have the inside track on the Steelers like my guy Smitty. Guy Smitty.
You ready? You ready? Y'all ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There he is. There he is. There he is.
What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Smitty.
Smitty, how you been, man?
Smitty, my boy.
Hey, listen, that Z Smitty runs the city. We can't do that no more because Pete Diddy, he done ruined it for you, Smitty.
I don't want anything to do with that. So I'm good with no.
You better dump all your baby oil. Just get rid of all the baby oil now. Don't be messing around with that shit.
So yes,
happened last weekend.
Yep.
There's not a single bottle to be found.
We gotta change it to something else, baby. What's going on?
Here for all ideas.
Smitty, what's going on with you, buddy?
Yeah, this is Smitty from around the 412, not Noah Strackbein. Some people might be confused by the title of the YouTube video.
Our boy, he gets you guys. I say they call me the old curmudgeon that I don't get, but I get the guys. I get the different celery. I say, Mark, all white boys don't look alike. Even
Noah,
yeah.
But what's great about that is Noah and I used to work together. Actually,
wow.
kind of like the first our podcast around the 412 used to be on Noah's network, and that's kind of how like we really started to break in. So
okay. Wow.
Yeah, Noah's my boy, so no offense taken, but I'm not Noah. That's all I'm saying.
Jeez,
I know how you feel. I get confused for Bradley Cooper all the time, but
yeah,
I have to correct
I see it.
I correct people right quick, and it's okay.
Oh, absolutely. If you turn your head to the left, squint your eyes, and put your hand over
Bradley Hooper.
Yeah.
Randy Cooper.
Bradley Hooper.
Oh
man.
Hold on. Before we dive into Steelers, I was watching a little bit before I jumped on here. Kalen DeBoer is the man. Alabama's a great spot with him.
Okay.
Man. I mean, he got 6 dudes from the Washington offense drafted last year.
I know.
He's going to have no problem recruiting at Bama.
I know. And the crazy part is, though, like, even when Washington played when I say bigger school, like they lost to Michigan, a Big Ten school, they had the speed. I just didn't think they could match up front with the size and the girth. So I knew he'd bring the wide open offense and some speed, but man.
Yeah.
I
think Jalen Milroe sticking around for him is going to be massive too.
Fellas, and I got to I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the last one to the show. I did not think Milrose was that good. I did not think Milroe was going to be that good after last season. He was solid. I expected him to be able to not lose the game, but I didn't think you could put the game.
He did start slow.
But I didn't think you could put the game on his shoulders and expect him to throw 300, 325. But yo,
it didn't look like he was going to be the one. But yeah,
what's up with that freshman, the 17-year-old?
Williams.
Yeah,
Williams. He's did you see his NIL money went up? Just because he got his NIL money went up.
Yeah, I'm sure. He probably got a couple of $100,000 handshakes.
Without question. So we'll see, man. But yeah, Smitty, I know your time is limited with us. You're on the move, moving and shaking. So, man,
can we address Devontae Adams first?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with Devontae Adams. I was actually the one that put out there about the Raiders reaching out to the Steelers, not vice versa. So this past summer, as we know, the Steelers were kind of turning over a bunch of stones on the receiver market. And the Raiders were one of the teams that they contacted. Omar was kind of told to screw off at that point in time. The Raiders had no interest in moving Devontae Adams. That tone has very much changed. I think when you go back to this was a couple weeks ago, and I don't think people thought Devontae Adams fell into this category, but if you guys remember post-game, Antonio Pierce was talking about guys making business decisions.
Right.
They might have to start making some business decisions. I think a lot of people like Jack Jones, there was a play that was highlighted where he didn't really want to get in on a pile, wasn't part of a tackle. You could see that. Those were the players I think people thought were being kind of categorized there by Antonio Pierce. Then you see Antonio Pierce liking an Instagram post about Devontae Adams potentially getting traded. You see Devontae Adams held out this week with a hamstring injury, yet he's still doing, appearances on podcasts and doing some media availability and stuff like that. And you start to get your mind going. So he was on Up and Adams with Kay Adams today talking about the situation and said he hadn't heard anything. It's been radio silence from Antonio Pierce. He has no clue why he liked that post. Hadn't talked to Tom Kolesko, the GM. Maybe 2 hours afterwards, it comes out that he himself has now asked the team for a trade. He would like to move on.
Smitty, by chance, do you have any idea how this started? Had he been rumbling in the locker room for weeks about his production? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's weird because last year, like, so you got the whole. Yeah, that's probably the best way to break it down, as simple as possible. Yeah, if you were really looking for one simple statement there, that's probably the way to go. But last year, in the Jimmy Garoppolo era, Devontae clearly very frustrated, wasn't on the same page with Josh McDaniels, and they clearly needed a culture shift. Antonio Pierce comes in. It kind of seemed like everything was kind of smooth sailing for Devontae for the most part for the rest of the year. So I necessarily didn't see this coming, but he's a wide receiver. He's a top flight wide receiver who wants his touches. Hasn't really gotten that. Go ahead.
Where's his contract? How many years does he have left out there?
So the guaranteed money is up after this year. He's due $13 million the rest of this season.
Okay.
He's due $13 million the rest of this season. His cap hits are $35 million and $34 million each of the next two.
And see, that's my problem, guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no team's acquiring him and letting him play out those 2 years at that money, though. So that's been the conversation today following this is whoever the acquiring team is going to be, they're going to talk with him first because they're going to have to redo the contract, or the team that's acquiring him is just going to say it's going to be understood that he's being cut after the season because he ain't playing out those 2 years.
Well, here's my thing, Smitty, and help me get me there because, okay, I think Pickens is that dude. I think if he had a legit, and I love Fields' athleticism, but nobody is considering Fields even a top half passer in the league. I just don't, when you're thinking pure passers, right? So if you had Pickens on a team with a decent QB, I think he could put up Jamar Chase numbers. I was not a Pickens guy when he came on to the score. I just wasn't. But if you're not getting him his touches, how would we bring in another top guy who wants his touches? I don't get that.
Yeah, I think there's honestly been some concerning things with George the last couple of weeks on tape from an effort standpoint. I went back and watched that game against the Chargers, and there's a couple plays where it looks like he's going half, three-quarters speed. And then Indianapolis at times being disengaged, he fumbles the football, and I think he got in his own head about that. And there were some concerning things post that afterwards. To be honest, I think Devontae brings out the best of any quarterback because he gets open so easily and he gets open quick. And when you look at the patchwork offensive line that the Steelers are going to have in place for the rest of the season, to me, that's a QB's best friend and the best way to maybe get the most out of them. Because George's best asset is going to be throwing the football down the field. I just don't know that this offensive line is going to be able to hold up to be able to do that.
And that's my thing. Okay. Now with Pickens, and here's my thing. The wide receiver is the only position that has to have a decent quarterback to shine. Because if you're I'm not saying it's okay with Pickens when you're saying he's given half effort, but if you know you don't have a top tier quarterback, if you know 8 out of every 10 catches, if I touch it, I'll catch it, but you got to at least get it to me. He's going all out, but he's not getting his touches. He doesn't have a quarterback that can get it to him. I sort of understand I'm not going to run 5 miles a day in every game when nothing's coming my way. And to me, honestly, real quick, if you can't get Muth, if you can't get Freiermuth eaten, that to me should be your best friend. He should have Kelsey numbers, and they can't get him right. You know what I'm saying? He should be eating more than anybody helping him out. But if your quarterback can't even get Muth the ball, why bring in another tight end another wide receiver? I just knew when they signed Muth, yes, the tight end is great.
Different position. The wide receivers help spread the field. So,
fellas, what I'm saying is if you can't throw it 10, 12 yards or 8, 10, whatever Muth would be, like whatever, how are you going to get another wide receiver and get him health and get him and get him fed and get him happy?
What are you saying can't do that? Fields had a good game.
One, nobody thought he could do it. I hate to say one because think about it. He was averaging 100 and some yards a game, and we were like, this game's proficient. He did well. Fellas, if I know Herbert or Allen or Mahomes or
Aaron Rodgers,
some of those guys if they had the, if they would have had the numbers that Fields had in the first 3 games, they wouldn't have been geeked about those numbers, but we were happy he didn't lose it for us.
So he got good numbers, but our defense shit the bed this week.
Yeah, they did on Sunday. Now that I admit.
I mean, we're going to talk about the quarterback position more, but to be quite honest with you, I think Justin's playing like a top half of the league quarterback. To be honest with you.
I'm right with you.
Right now, in every metric, the least that he is EPA per play, he's 16th in the league. He's second in completion percentage over expected right now. I think honestly, the biggest disservice that's being done to him is just the game plan. I think they're being super conservative early on, and then kind of letting it rip. When you look at this last game that took place, it took them going down 17 points to say, okay, we have to kind of take the kid gloves off.
You have to. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. But the Colts defense loses up a little bit too. But here's my thing: people born round don't die square. He couldn't pass like that for 4 years or however many years it was in Chicago. So he has one great game now, and I
think week three was better than week 4 in my opinion. He was better against the Chargers than he was against Indianapolis. So I think he's now had back-to-back weeks where he's looked like this.
Okay, let me ask you.
In the first 2 games. To be honest, again, week 1, they found out 48 hours beforehand that he was going to be the starter. So I understand kind of having the game plan that they did. Denver, they're attributing it to, having to play in an environment that they're not used to with the air and whatever like that. Fine. But they took away the QB run element of their game. And very clearly were not threatened by Denver's offense at all. They didn't think that they had to press any buttons in that one. So to me, when I go back and watch it, I think Justin's been their best player on offense.
Yes, because Harris.
I don't agree. He controlled the ball. He had 1 fluke turnover in that Chargers game. He's getting good reads. He hits Pickens, and he gets called back on penalties.
Yeah,
He did hit Freiermuth, and Freiermuth backed it in. He backed it in. Beep, beep, beep. For the touchdown.
If you're starting a team, and Pickens fumbled to me, I hated the fact he was carrying the ball like Walter Payton used to. Now we're older cats, Zach, so you may not remember Walter Payton, but he's carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. But
yeah, I was thinking more like for me, like LaShawn McCoy, the way that he used to carry it. Yeah.
I get so.
I think Pickens was about to try to stretch.
Man, he was No. I don't know. Wasn't he like at the 5 or 6
yard line? He's like the 12-yard line or something.
Brother, I know he's looked like
that was like that's a Michael Jordan Space Jam.
That
he was trying to
do. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Smitty. What's the word with some injury fronts? Let's start at the line, go back. What are we looking at?
With the offensive line, when I was on here, heading into the preseason training camp, stuff like that, that was their deepest position group. I thought they had 10 NFL quality guys in that group. And then you've lost 3 of them now for the season. And Nate Herbig, who I expected Zach Frazier to end up being the starting center game 1 anyway, but still you hate to lose your primary interior backup like that. Troy Fautani, your first round pick, definitely out for the rest of the regular season. Sounds like they're hopeful if they were to make the playoffs, he could return.
How did he get hit? Did he fall? How did he tear his knee up? What happened?
It was the other knee. It wasn't the one that he originally sprained his MCL. It was the other one that they're classifying as the kneecap. The word that I had heard was meniscus, actually, that they were worried about. So I thought we were kind of heading down a JJ McCarthy path where they were going to go in there and see okay, is it a cleanup and it's 6 weeks, or are we going to do a full repair and it's the season? And then all of a sudden the kneecap came out of nowhere. So that kind of threw me off that was actually the injury that he suffered, but it was the other knee, not the same one that he sprained the MCL in. So yeah, I mean, that's obviously super unfortunate. I know that there was concerns even pre-draft about knee issues because he has some degenerative thing that they're worried about the long-term health with him. And I'll be honest, I don't know which one that was in. So if that was in this same one, I think there's going to be obviously some long-term concerns going forward there. So you lose him. Now you lose James Daniels with an Achilles injury for the rest of the season. You already got your a backup tackle, Dylan Cook, who they really like and new to the position. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was a transformed from a quarterback. 3 years now he's played tackle. So, but they really like him as a project guy. He'll be the primary backup at both spots once he comes back. He's working his way back. I think he could even return to practice later this week or next week. So that'll be good to at least get him back. And then, Sam Allo working his way back, and I think we do see him return this week. Gotten 3 limited practices last week. Go ahead.
What about the guy from the Patriots that they just signed?
Calvin Anderson.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's to me just a guy. He's had some weird stuff health wise, and like he had malaria a couple years ago. I know that he's also suffered some knee injuries. Like I was kind of surprised that this is the guy they took a flyer on. But again, I think he's just kind of like a just a guy type of player.
Who they signed today? Max, or he played on the Bengals, the Texans.
Max Sharping. Yeah, from he was a second round pick of the Texans. He's actually started quite a few games. Honestly, at this juncture, I think a solid addition for them. I mean, a guy that started quite a few games for the Texans, had to go to Cincinnati and play when Alex Kappa suffered a season-ending injury the year that they went on their run. So, for a guy that's had that many starts in the NFL, I think you could do worse at this juncture than adding him.
Here's the thing, Smitty, because me and some of the guys were going back and forth on it today, but he hasn't played since 2022, and he's been on a couple teams since, and they couldn't even use him as a backup. Now, do you see him being in the rotation after a couple weeks, couple practices? He's a guy, or is he just practice squad?
So they got to have him on the 53 because they signed him off somebody else's practice squad. So he would go back to their practice squad if he wasn't on the 53 for at least 3 weeks. But I think honestly what this does is they want him as the primary interior backup. And then you have Spencer Anderson now as tackle depth because they don't have that now, at least for the time being until Dylan Cook gets back. So that's kind of the way that I'm seeing it. I don't know that the organization views it the same way. We'll get a better picture when they go to practice tomorrow for the heavy day in pads of the week on Wednesday. So get a clear picture then.
He's had a couple penalties, Jones, at tackle, but hasn't really given up sacks. How are you feeling about him, whether it's the penalties? Are you feeling pretty good about the O-line with their as best as it can be for the patchwork that it is?
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm glad that you added that caveat because I don't know that I necessarily feel good about it, but I think, all things considered, when you lose 3 guys to season-ending injuries and have another backup right now on IR, they've been okay. I mean, the thing with Broderick is I think once he was able to get rid of that brace and go to that like Jerome Bettis elbow pad style thing that he's got going on now, he's been a lot more functional. I think that he's gotten a little bit of that punch back. The thing is he's also dealing with a thumb issue that not a lot of people have talked about. So that kind of was impacting that first punch too. But like for me, even I was like, okay, injury aside, I wasn't seeing it with the lower half. I thought his footwork was kind of messed up. The technique wasn't there. I think that's taken a step forward since he got back into that starting spot. So I'm encouraged. I still like Broderick Jones as a player. I thought that he was a project to begin with. Like I remember when we drafted him, I was telling people, hey, you're probably not going to see the return on investment here until maybe the beginning of year 3, late in year 2, hopefully. So I think we're kind of right there on that trajectory. But he's been solid for them the last couple of weeks, in my opinion.
When we say patchwork line, are we talking for protecting the pass? Because listen, when Cordell Patterson got in there, he was shooting through the hole. I mean, is it Najee Harris or is it the line?
There's been a lot of talk about Najee Harris
coming out of that so
game.
Slow. That's my issue. He just hits it slow.
Right. Yeah. Well, to your point, I want to start with the offensive line thing first, because it's true. Like they're running maybe like 10 true pass sets. They're setting these guys up to not be able to fail because of what we're talking about. Like they'll do a lot of play action, a lot of bootlegs, and just not really putting their offensive line in positions to get killed. As far as the run blocking goes, where you would think like when you look at the guys that they still have there, even with the injuries, that still should be the strength of this team. And then you see Cordero run the way that he does. We haven't seen what a healthy Jalen Warren is going to look like yet this year. Hopefully he's able to get back in the near future. But yes, I mean, Najee's not 100%. I'll give him that caveat too, for sure. But at the same time, man, like if he's healthy enough to play, like I thought this was one of his worst games in his NFL career when I went back and watched was this game against Indy. He had his arm in a sling last Monday, and then they said he was fine on Tuesday. I mean, there's no way. Like, you're not fine if that's the case. You might be healthy enough to play, but you're not fine. So yeah, I thought Najee was one of their worst players in this game against Indianapolis, and he needs to be much better. I don't think that the line necessarily did him any favors, but I thought he did a poor job of taking advantage of what was at least there.
Hey, I have a question because we talked about this before. If we keep talking about this patchwork line, is there any chance of Darnell Washington stepping into a role there? Because he only gets one catch a game.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have talked about, just play him at tackle. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. I do think they are going to use him as a security blanket for whichever tackle they feel like. Like we've seen them do it with Broderick to kind of ease him back into the starting rotations, using him as the 6th offensive lineman and just kind of having him attached at the hip. And I think that they'll continue to deploy that. I mean, they're going to play 2 or 3 tight ends on more of their snaps than not anyways. So Darnell, I consider him an extension of the offensive line more than I do a tight end, but I don't necessarily think that he's ever going to actually play tackle.
Okay.
Who's the
And I'll admit,
who's the last tight end to come in to play tackle?
Man, I mean, Villanueva did it. I don't know if another one has done it since.
Chops, you guys don't know Larry Brown?
Oh,
man.
Oh, you mean okay? Yeah, okay. So Villanueva was a converted tight end as well, and so was Jeremiah Lotta. But they converted. It wasn't like actually listed as a tight end and then tackle. Yeah, I got you. All right,
man. But you know what? I will admit, I do like when the pass plays when they're rolling Fields out. Let him roll out to buy more time with his speed. Now, again, it's not something you want him doing all the time, only because he's running all the time. Might get him tired. I don't know. But I do like that when they roll out. He doesn't have to worry about if the line's going to collapse on him. He gets to see the field more. That I do like. I like that. I don't know if that's
one of my favorite plays this year was against Atlanta in week 1, where right before halftime they have him roll all the way to the left, but George is running a deep out to the right. And luckily, George accidentally stepped out of bounds with 3 seconds left because he kept trying to go. But that was one of my favorite plays of the year. And that's, again, getting creative because of you want to maximize Justin's strengths, but I also think it's to limit the limitations they know they have with this offensive line.
No, what's the word with Cordell? How bad is he? Do you know how long where you could expect him out?
I mean,
what's the issue? Because he walked off, looked like a rib.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, Tomlin said he's leaving the light on for him to return this week. He might be dealing with it, but I know it's also something with his ankle. So I don't know.
His ankle. Now,
go ahead.
When are you expecting Warren? What's the word on Warren? How much longer are we looking for him to be out?
I'll be honest. I think Warren could have gone last week if they needed him to. I think they were so happy with the way that Cordell ran in the fourth quarter of the previous game that they were like, let's give Jalen a week here. He was already dealing with a hamstring earlier. Now he's got this knee flare-up thing. But typically if a player's hurt, they're off to the sides or not even on the practice field at all. Jalen was standing right next to the drills. He was clearly chomping at the bit, almost like he wanted to participate or was trying to participate in them. So I don't know. I think he could return this week. Maybe they do be extra cautious with it. They have some practice squad backs that I like. I mean, we saw Aaron Shamplin for 13 snaps. I don't know that he's going to be a contributor, but Jonathan Ward, who they have on the practice squad, I feel like is a guy that specifically in this scheme could be a dude. So if we're talking about needing a back this week, he would be the guy I think gets elevated before Shamplin.
Oh, okay. Now this is it. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the showstopper. This is what everybody tuned in for. What's the word in the quarterback room? Is this Fields' team to lose? Is he now QB1? Is it in pen yet?
No. And I can't commit to that because to me the game plan has not committed to that yet. If it was my decision, and this goes back to before the season, I said this. I in my opinion, Russell Wilson out the gate probably gave them a better chance of winning maybe one more football game. But to me, I would have started Justin from the jump. Reason being, that one win wasn't enough for me to not find out if we have a potential quarterback of the future on the roster. We knew Russell wasn't going to be that. Justin potentially could. That is why I would have gone with Justin out of the gate. Now, that being said, Russell was named the starter. So I got it. I was okay with either decision. Russell was named the starter. Didn't lose the job for anything other than just because of injury. Justin had to step in. And from everyone that I talked to, this was going back a couple weeks. The plan all along was for Russ to come back this week against Dallas and be the starter. The thing is, I don't think he's physically there yet. Tomlin talked today and said he's going to ramp up a little bit this week. He's going to do some 11 on 11. They're going to have him go through some more drills. I think he gets a good week of practice in. Still think Justin starts against Dallas. Next week is where that decision is going to be made. Man, if they go out and win this game against Dallas, Justin looks good. You're 4-1. To me, that's a hard decision to sell to your team, but I think it's certainly on the table.
Chops is muted. This is the first time we will not have to put up with him talking smack. But
here's the thing. While
technology, he said it took 4 games to realize and to know what we have in our offense. We locked out the first 3 games, and the offense showed its true colors last week by not playing a full 4 quarters. Is that the offense we have to expect the rest of the season, where they put up dismal numbers? I know playing from behind, that helped pump the numbers for Fields in the offense. But is this 3 and out, 4 and out, okay, first down, stuff like that, where we're barely ticking away? Is that something we're going to have to put up with again another year?
Well, here's the thing too. We keep talking about the offensive performance in the second half, really, that game against Indianapolis. They kneeled it out on the 1-yard line against the Chargers, where they scored 27 points in that game as well. And right now they're still top 10 time of possession, top 10 in third down conversions. I think they're controlling the football. I think we're just kind of waiting for the dam to break on scoring. But at the same time, when you look at what the talent they have across the board, how many times have we talked about the lack of wide receiver talent? Now you got a patchwork offensive line. I just don't think that the goal is, as much as this sounds, I mean, you would love to score as many points as possible, obviously, but the goal is really not to screw it up for the defense and just do enough with what you have of the offensive talent.
Man, but I would like to see the offense at least more than hold their own. You know what I mean? Because like I said, when you're not screwing up, you're just holding your own and letting the defense win it. But here's my thing. And I wanted Russ from the opening gate, but here's why. Fields is still only 25. The way that Green Bay did it, Favre sat for a little bit, not much behind McCoskey, but he sat a little bit. Aaron Rodgers sat for a while. Jordan Love sat for a while behind quarterbacks and learned, and it's worked well for them. Nobody has quarterbacks sit anymore. Do you realize, like, some of these guys that are being canned and cut after their first or second year? If that would have happened to Troy Aikman, if that would have happened to Peyton Manning, hell, Manning was 3-13 his first year. Aikman was 0-11. So that's what I was hoping, that Fields would be able to get to sit for a great organization in Pittsburgh, learn behind a true quarterback on the aspect of it. When they're in the film room, Fields can truly learn, and he didn't have to worry about being the man. And he could come out and be like Jordan Love, who after 13 starts got a humongous contract. Of course, it didn't work out like that. You know what I mean? Best plans never work out the way you have written them on paper. But now I wanted Russ. I still like Russ, but it would. I can't see how you.
Hey, could Sam Darnold sit behind, because he's doing a good job in Minnesota right now, 4-0. I don't know.
But look who he's got. Look who his weapons are. His weapons.
And I think Kevin O'Connell is awesome. I think Kevin O'Connell's an awesome head coach, especially for getting the most out of quarterbacks. My question to you in terms of that path for quarterbacks, right, is the clock had already been started on Justin, though. Like, does that get thrown out the window? Like, it's not like he can just all of a sudden forget everything that he learned and just totally reset here, in my opinion. Like, if you already started the clock on his NFL career, him coming here and sitting, like, those 3 years in Chicago still happened.
Yeah, but look, like he said, Sam Darnold. Look at Mayfield. Yeah, Baker. Look at Geno. Those guys were written off earlier in their career, and now they had a chance to sit back and learn. Now look at them. You know what I mean? And that's where, and he was still only 25. Where now QBs are playing till they're damn near 68. You know what I mean?
Those guys got a little bit older too, though. Geno and
right.
Mayfield.
Yeah. Was it a matter of them sitting, or was it just,
Mature.
getting in the right environment? Like, so if it's the right environment part, maybe that's already here and he's playing in it right now. I don't know what the answer is.
What are you looking for out of him?
Out of who? Joe? Out of Fields?
Yeah.
Because Fields is already an athletic quarterback. He can throw it a mile, just like Lamar. But Lamar has never had a chance to develop as a QB. There's got to be something said for Green Bay. They do it with one. They've done it with 2 or 3 QBs that have sat. Willis hasn't even sat for that long, and he comes out and already looks better in Green Bay than he did at where he was before. So whatever, maybe it's just LaFleur, but whatever they've got working in Green Bay and making these young quarterbacks sit for a full season or 2 is working.
I'm on the fence. Tell me and I forget, teach me, I remember, involve me, I learn. I think you have to learn by doing. I think they need to get involved, but under the tutelage of the right people, coach, quarterback, who's starting, that could help. But you have to get in the damn game and try it out a little bit, get your bumps and bruises and figure things out on your own too.
True, but don't forget, Chicago hasn't had a good quarterback since before any of us
They
were
haven't
here.
had a good team since '85.
But what I'm saying is they don't develop quarterbacks at all. We've even known teams that have been in the gutter but had a decent quarterback, couldn't get him help, whatever it is. So he never got any proper tutelage in Chicago. We know he's a hell of an athlete. We know Fields is a hell of an athlete. And you're right, Sizzle, where they got to play. But let's not forget some of your greats. Now, Manning, they knew he was generational, whatever have you. But a lot of these other quarterbacks sat for at least a year. There used to be a saying, hold the clipboard. Now nobody does that. And if you don't come in and shine after your first year, we're thinking about cutting you or drafting somebody else. I mean, I don't feel bad for the kids because they're still walking to the bank with a ton of money in their pocket. But, man, I think Fields could have been the guy for the next 10, 12 years. He's still
Speaking of the Mannings, I love when they downplay their athletic ability and they say they're just nothing compared to this Arch coming up. And they say he's fast, and they don't know where he got the speed from because none of those Manning brothers have it.
Yeah, he can run. He can run.
Hey, just so you know, Chops, the quarterback coach from Green Bay is from Pittsburgh.
Who is it?
Tom Clements went to Canavan, went to Notre Dame.
Oh, he's from Pittsburgh. But
he coached for the Steelers. Steelers had him at one point.
How long ago?
Even he retired. He came out of retirement to go back to Green Bay like Aaron's last 2 years.
Yep.
Hey, real quick before we get you out of here, Smitty, what are you looking at? I know it's rough because you got patchwork, offensive line, not sure who's coming back, injuries, the whole gamut. 3-1 after 4. Yep. What are you seeing? How are you looking at the second half of the season is a gauntlet? What are you expecting for the rest of the season from our Steelers?
I'll be honest.
Everything.
Yeah, I think at 3-1, and this is kind of where they needed to be because of what the back half of that schedule looks like. I think you got to be, 7-2, 6-3 at the very least going into the bye week with what they have on the other side of that. I think that they're in a good spot. I think we're, other than we don't know what the injuries are going to shake out like and stuff like that. But as we sit here on the surface, I think they're in a fine spot. Like the offense, I think if you can continue to build off what they did in the second half last week and just kind of open things up from the get-go going forward. The defense, honestly, we haven't really spent any time talking about them, but going back watching them, the communication was all over the place. You kind of hope it was just like look at last year, that game against Houston. Maybe it was just a one-off. I guess the good news is, like last year, they didn't let this one get that out of hand. They were able to kind of mount a comeback. But there's certainly things to clean up on the defensive side of the ball as well. They got a lot of new pieces. Obviously, Patrick Queen, the guy in the middle calling the shots, he has not been very good through his first 4 games. And I think that a lot of that is due to communication. But I think the cornerbacks have been solid. I think the front seven's been good for the most part. Indianapolis just seems to have a great game plan for slowing down TJ Watt, who
was
not on the
man holding him. Did you see a man?
But listen, I'm never going to complain about. You can watch any game in the NFL, and you're going to see as many holds as you saw in that game. So,
dude, I think literally a couple of those plays and more than 4 or 5, you could put those in health classes. How to properly execute the Heimlich maneuver. It was bad. It was
well,
bad.
The thing is,
to get held.
Here's the thing with TJ, right? Is his favorite move is that rip move. The NFL has a rule. As soon as you go for the rip move, you can do whatever you want to the guy now. It's not a holding penalty. They implemented that rule a few years back. So as soon as TJ goes for that rip move, put him in a headlock. Plays over. Shut it down from there.
And real quick, as we're worrying about the second half of the season, fellas, I know they're undefeated, but I don't think anybody's afraid of the Chiefs like they were 2-3 seasons ago. The Ravens, they're giving up second half leads like nobody's business. The Bengals aren't who we thought they were, or at least not early. I know on paper, the second half of the schedule looks like a gauntlet, and it still is week after week. But I'm feeling a lot better about the second half of the season now compared to
Washington the best team that they play post-bye?
Wow, man, that's the one right now I'm most scared of. I ain't gonna lie to you, Smitty.
Man, Jaden Daniels is unbelievable right now.
Man,
he is.
I like that cat.
Here's the thing, though. Let's look back.
He's going to win that bet with Malik Neighbors. He's going to get Rookie of the Year. He keeps playing like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Let's look back at Cliff Kingsbury's tenures. Always good in the first half of the season. Yeah. Let's see how they do in the second half.
Yes, I know. But
anyways, you asked me for a prediction. I'm sorry, 10-7.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking to it for the Steelers.
10-7.
Yeah. I'm not changing. I'm not one of those guys that go game by game and say this is a win, this is a loss. I just like to say big picture, they're going to win games that they shouldn't. They're going to lose games that they shouldn't. It's all going to even out.
Man,
You just want him to be 500 and get one playoff and and that's it. We're good.
let me. The Steelers
500, Tomlin, you got your all-time 500 record. If we get in, we get in. If not, we'll go back to the drawing board.
500, just so you know. But
let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, Smitty, because you're there. You're in the 412. With what if he? Not saying he's getting fired. That's not how the Rooney's handle it. What are the fans feeling if this cat doesn't get a playoff win? This is my nephew, and he loves the Bengals.
We're sleeping on him, Bo.
I actually almost fell asleep reading that comment.
Yeah.
I think context matters. And again, like you look at this team right now, I think that they are a playoff team. Are they good enough to win a playoff game?
It goes to matchups. I'll give you that. But if he doesn't get one, for the most part, everybody loves Tomlin. Fan loves Tomlin. If he got fired tomorrow, another team will pick him up. But if he doesn't get a playoff win this year, what do you think you're hearing out in the streets? Are there going to be more calls for his head? Are there going to be? I mean, Sirianni
here's my question.
He went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they're talking about firing him now.
Here's my question. I get it's because it's been so long since it happened, but what does a playoff win, just one on its own, actually matter?
No, I get that, but we're the city. We were the city of champions, where can't go by our Pirates, but the Pirates were winning, the Steelers were winning, had more rings than Saturn. But now we can't even get a playoff win. We just want to walk. We just want to crawl before we can walk or run. You know what I mean? So it's like at least get us a playoff win or something. You're right. One playoff win means nothing. But hell,
I think that's where the conversation I think is very different for the fans than obviously the organization. They aren't thinking about winning a playoff game. Like that thought is not crossing their mind. It's about obviously winning it all. But to your point here, to me, it's going to depend about the matchup, right? If they make the playoffs, if they're a favorite, if they're hosting a playoff game and lose that game, that's going to look really bad. If they go in as a wild card team, which this team to me looks like right now, and they lose on the road to a Kansas City, to a Buffalo, as long as it's competitive, I don't know that I'm going to say, oh, here we go. The playoff drought continues because they lost this football game.
Yeah, I got you. Well, Smitty, again, real quick before you get in here, what's going on with Around the 412? What you guys got going on? Tell us about that.
Well, the biggest thing that I like to talk about anytime somebody is gracious enough to have me on their podcast and give me their time is our Christmas mission, Rocking Around the 412, which we do every year. Man. This is year 7 of doing it. So back in 2017, we started the podcast. 2018, I was like, guys, let's find a way to give back to the community. So we started raising money. And since then, we've raised over $32,000 to be able to give kids in the 724 and 412 areas at Christmas that they otherwise wouldn't have. So we started partnering up with the East Rochester Salvation Army. Over the last 7 years, like I said, we've raised over $32,000. Last year, we gave 30 kids in the area Christmas in its entirety, their entire lists of Christmas gifts that they wanted. And then along with that, we also provide the family with a $100 gift card to be able to go and get the groceries for a holiday meal. So doing that for the last 7 years. Like I said, called Rocking Around the 412. We launch it in July of every year. It was my mom's idea, Christmas in July, like we like to call it. But really in September, when it gets to football season, we really start ramping it up. So the link to that, if you follow us on any social media, it's always our pinned thing that we got going on, goes directly to the GoFundMe.
Okay. Appreciate it. Again, Smitty, we love having you on. Appreciate coming us on, breaking it down for us like a double barrel shotgun. Appreciate it. And we definitely,
Hey, before you kick him off the show, I think what were we favored 3 last week? We're favored 2.5 this week versus Dallas. What's your prediction for the Dallas Sunday night game?
I think that we do a complete turn from where we were at after last week's game.
Steelers are going to be pissed.
We're going to be able to run the football. No Micah Parsons, no Lawrence for that Dallas defense. I think the Steelers are going to be able to run the football regardless of the backs that are out there. I think they'll be strategical with taking their shots. I'm going to say 27-20 Steelers win.
Okay.
And I know Porter's gotten some defensive pass interference, but he's aggressive, and I like that for you. And
by the way, he should have had 2 picks.
I know. And you know what? And
different conversation if that happens.
Man, if ifs were fists, we'd all be drunk, and I hate to do it. But you think about it. If he gets that interception, your boy doesn't fumble. That's a 10-point swing right there. You know what I mean? There's a point, man. Yes, man.
I mean, even Calvin returns a punt to the 33, which is a
No.
50-yard field goal. Justin takes a sack running 25 yards back.
How do they call that on Minka? How does that ref still have a job?
Yeah.
How is he not heavily fined?
And then they say right afterwards they messed up. But what's that matter?
I know. Jeez, Lou. All right. Smitty, again, appreciate you coming on, man. We want to have you back on. Matter of fact, now that you messed you up so that people can see the resemblance, because damn, I sort of do see it now. We'll have both you and no on at the same time, and let's get it all in.
You know what would be good? I don't know if we can make this happen, but what would be good is bye week. Kind of reset where we're at, bye week, and see about the second half of the schedule.
Now, do you deal with also the Pirates and the Pens, or mainly, or just the Steelers?
I mean, we do podcasts on them, and obviously, like I cover them from like a fan perspective, but
I got you.
Like I don't have the ins and outs.
Because he's not here, but Mark is so ticked off with the Pirates and how they just.
Oh, I mean, dude, same win total was last year, despite what you got from Paul Skeens, a healthy season from O'Neal Cruz,
Rookie of the year,
Jared Jones. They're a joke. They're a joke. I don't take them seriously. That's what there's Major League Baseball, and then there's the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh man, I feel you, Smitty. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your 412. We'll have you back on again, brother.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks,
Smitty.
All right, man. All right, fellas. So here's what we got. And fellas, I'm not lying to you. Looking at the second half of the season, not worried about the Eagles now. Now, again, everybody can turn around. Not worried about the Eagles. Not worried about the Clowns, the Cleveland Clowns. Not worried about the Cincinnati Bungles. The Chiefs, or Mahomes is going to be Mahomes, but they're not as dangerous as we thought they were.
You're not worried, but you know what? This is what we do, man. Like, come on, man. Like, you got to come out hot. You got to come out hot, man. You know what I mean?
But then, real talk though, keep it a buck. Didn't you expect the Ravens, the Bengals, or at least the Bengals and the Eagles to look better?
Yeah.
Yes, but now what I'm kind of finding out is these people on these shows just be talking, man.
Yeah,
true that. You know what I mean? It's like,
but they had Slim Shady Burrow back. He dyes his hair blonde. He expected the Bengals to do a little something more. What are they? 1-3? 1-3? Ooh. Man, fellas. Okay,
we running the table to the bye week. Got 4 games. We running the table to the bye week.
Who we got?
Dallas,
well,
Las Vegas, New York Jets, and New York Giants.
Here's what I'm like. Okay, I'm the fact that the Jets are in Pittsburgh. It's going to be hype. Night game. Going to be hype. It's going to be hype.
I'm gonna be up there that weekend.
They're getting after Rodgers' old ass. Believe what you hear. Believe what you heard. The Raiders are the Raiders. They got to go to Vegas. Steelers, what are they going to do? They might play. I don't know. They should. I'm. You know me, but I'm a homer. I'm thinking they're beating the Cowboys. They're beating the Cowboys. They're coming out pissed. And the Giants shouldn't stand a chance. Just keep it a buck. They shouldn't. So
but that's the thing, and that's the thing. Like they got hot and beat. See, so I no.
All right.
You don't think they're on the table these last 4 games?
Okay, so what do you? If you're not, don't have to pick a team that you think they're going to beat. So out of these next 4, what are you going? 2-2, 3-1,
I say 3-1. I say 3-1.
3-1.
It's going to be somebody like the Giants. Watch.
I like to say 4-0, but they do dumb stuff like they did in Indianapolis. They should have won that game. You know?
Yeah,
I agree.
They contained the running back. He didn't run all over them.
Fellas, honestly, like I said, until
freaking picked them apart. He's 85.
Smitty mentioned it. Until you get to Washington and what Daniels can do with his arm and the with his legs, I'm man, I don't know, man. I don't know. So we'll see, fellas. We will see.
Wrap it up, baby.
Until next week. Tell them where you can find you.
Hey, we done added it to the names now. It's right underneath the names. You can find me at that email if you want to send me an email or anywhere on social platform.
All right. That's nice. Thanks for sharing.
Well, that's just my Twitter account. You know, I'm on the gram, the at Big Chops, Facebook, at what is it, Michael Gregory Mills. You know what I mean? My government. You know what I mean? And that's where you can find me on the X at the real Big Chops. Holla at your boy. Matter of fact, on the gram, it's Big Chops 824. Yes, sir.
And I'm at 1T Young. You check us out on our website, social media networks. We're on podpage.com, Riddle Sports Podcast with Mark Maradei. Like us on our Facebook page. Join the conversation on Twitter. Reach out to us on Snapchat, OSP with Mark Maradei. And we'll see you all next week. Have a great time watching some football. There's too many of those damn things to read.
When you were putting that shit right there.
Live.
This podcast is part of the Frederick Podcast Network. Learn more at listenfrederick.com.